Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat. Resolves.
Thank you.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, my name is DJ. You're watching the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. Today we're talking more Commander Legends. I want to take a look at the gold cards in this set because they are exceptional and give us access to so many legendary creatures. Let's start off with Abomination of Lanoir. 1 black green for a star vigilant menacing elf horror. Abomination of Lanoir's power and toughness are each equal to the number of elves you control, plus the number of elf cards in your graveyard. This is automatically a great rate. I've seen elf decks play Heedless One all the time, and that's 4 CMC. Trample's good, by the way, but just elves on the battlefield. Now we go over here, and it doesn't have trample, but having vigilance and menace does kind of give us a little bit of that evasion right there. Hitting up the elves in our graveyard is really cool too. It's also like a super budget elf card, so I think it would go in any elf deck that plays black and green. Will this belong as a commander of an elf deck? I honestly think it could. I think we could go aggro elves. The problem is that, like, if you're going aggro elves, like, how are you going to beat Azuri? Literally giving your elves an overrun over and over and over again is really, really good. And so if you're looking at doing damage, this just doesn't do as much. But I love that it dips you over into black, so that's good. Moving on, let's talk about Amarath the Lustrous. 3 green, white, blue for a 6/6 legendary dragon with flying. Whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it shares a card type with that permanent, you may reveal that card and put it into your hand. Okay, so if you're lucky, when you're playing permanents, you're drawing cards as well. This has me feeling of like a very fair Chulane. Like if you liked Chulane, you liked the idea of maybe a value creature deck where you're drawing cards, but this was too broken for you. Like Amarath might be okay, you know? Chulane is clearly better though. I mean, but maybe Amarath opens up other options because it's just permanents. So lands, for example, you play a land, that land entered the battlefield, you can look at the top card of your library, and if it's a land, you get to draw it. Then you play a creature and see if there's a creature there and you draw that. I mean, obviously top deck manipulation is going to be really good. In fact, maybe you should just make an artifact deck. You cast Sensei's Divining Top, Amarath has a trigger, you tap the top to put it on top of your library, and oh, it's an artifact. You draw it again. That means that you are just drawing a bunch of cards with this combo. I think that might be the direction that some people go to see the most power out of Amarath, but ultimately, it's not going to be a strong combo general because it's 6 mana to get going. It's going to be really hard to get this on the battlefield and then get a value engine because it could be killed. So this is very fair. And so I think if you want like a cool value general that's fairer, then this could be a good one. Speaking of lands, by the way, wouldn't it be great to just make everything lands? You could just always draw that land. Mess around with lands off the top of your library too. I think there's a lot of fun stuff you can do. But again, limiting its brokenness is the 6 CMC. Let's talk about one of the cards I was most excited about. It's Aramui the Dead Tide. Okay, this is 1 blue black for a 1/4 legendary merfolk wizard. Tap, exile cards from your graveyard equal to the number of opponents you have. Target creature card in your graveyard gains Encore until end of turn. The Encore cost is equal to its mana cost. This card is great. Just so great. A couple years ago when I was testing Commander Legends with the Command Zone people, I made this deck because I thought Encore was a broken mechanic and Aramui was broken then too. I took over the game. Granted, I misread the card and cheated just a tiny bit, but still the amount of Grave Titan triggers that were going on when you're encoring it is crazy. So this definitely has the ability to go over the top. And one thing that stinks though is that if this gets killed, you don't get to go off and encore everything. But the thing is though, is that if this gets killed, your deck is still filled with valuable enter the battlefield effect creatures. Like Casting a Grave Titan is pretty good, even though you might be dreaming about encoring it. So there's a lot going on in this deck that's going to make it really, really solid. I mean, just a really powerful uncommon. And just keep an eye out for anything with Encore because it's going to be amazingly good. Arclose Lagoon Mystic is 1 black, green, blue for a 2/4 legendary turtle shaman. As long as it's tapped, other permanents enter the battlefield tapped. As long as it's untapped, other permanents enter the battlefield untapped. This is a fantastic effect. You're going to want to be able to make sure you can tap and untap your Arclose whenever you want to. Vehicles do this, Springleaf Drum does it, Convoke does it, things like that. But honestly, this effect of like things your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped is so annoying. Like Kismet is an actually good card. It slows your opponents down so much. Frozen Ethers, the blue version of it. I like Thalia, Heretic Cathar. It doesn't hit those artifacts, you know, but still gets those creatures and non-basic lands. Like, oh, just slows everyone down. Because just imagine, your opponent needs to play something that blocks, okay? They play a land for turn and it's tapped. And then they untap that land and then they play a creature and it's tapped. So it's really giving you 2 extra turns where you can interrupt your opponent and get in there. And getting in there might be important in this deck. I know it's not the most aggressive thing, but you want to get Arclose tapped. So that could be good. Just having things untapped is really powerful too. You have your non-basic lands that can do tons of crazy stuff if they enter that battlefield untapped. I'm a big fan. All right, let's talk about Averna the Chaos Bloom. Black, blue, red for a 4/2 legendary elemental shaman. As you cascade, you may put a land card from among the exiled cards onto the battlefield tapped. So it doesn't mean that you're gonna automatically hit a land card, but so often you're gonna be scrolling past lands. Basically every time you cascade, getting a land on the battlefield is very, very good. Also, I think that this gives us access to a more interesting, fairer Cascade General, because Maelstrom Wanderer was gross. Maelstrom Wanderer, just people ramped into it and the cascade, and honestly, it was the creatures gaining haste that ended up just dealing a lot of damage and turned into not a broken deck, but a very powerful one. Not really so much about the Cascade value, but about playing Maelstrom Wanderer over and over and over again. Yidris Maelstrom Wielder was a little bit better, but it had too many hoops. People loved cascading, but it was about making sure that your Yidris hit. I like when value's sort of built into the commander already. We want the fun of cascading into things. It's like, oh, what are we going to get? But we also need to be able to ramp to play big spells. Averna seems to do a good job of that. All right, let's talk about Belby Corrupted Observer. This is a commander I'm interested in building around because, again, when playtesting these decks a couple years ago, someone played Belby against me and immediately went Pulse Tracker, add 6 CMC, and play a Worm Coil Engine. Just on turn 2. Belby and a Worm Coil Engine. It's so cool. The explosiveness. It's also nice that we got a way to keep that mana around in this set with Horizon Stone. But if you're looking at the maximum amount of mana that you can generate and what you can do with it, there's a lot of stuff that you can immediately just shove onto the battlefield. God Pharaoh's statue is going to slow stuff down for your opponents a ton. Mindslaver early on would be just crippling. Oblivion Sower can ramp you. I'm a big fan of that. Planner Bridge can go get all of your other gross things in your deck. Soul of New Phyrexia, some good protection. Steel Hellkite, Staff of Nin, the Immortal Sun, shutting stuff down. Ugin the Ineffable. I mean, there's the Wormcoil Engine that I mentioned. Even Ward of Bones could just shut stuff down like crazy. And so you shouldn't really concern yourself about what your opponents can do with the Belby mana. Instead, you just go bigger. You know, it's only a little bit of time before you're casting Eldrazi and they're like, I don't know, I guess I'll use this to pay extra commander tax. Yeah, it's awesome. All right, Belborca, Spectral Sergeant, is 2 red-white for Legendary Spirit Soldier. Note the converted mana cost of each card as it is put into exile. Belborca, Spectral Sergeant's power is equal to the greatest number noted for it this turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So this is already pretty strong because it's just a built-in card draw engine in Boros. You just draw a card every turn. Now I know it's impulse draw, but that's okay. I think I'm okay with that. This power can get obscenely large. Like, you can exile some crazy big spells, but this doesn't have evasion. It doesn't have any way to get that damage through. It kind of wants to attack by being able to have big stuff, especially if you're exiling a lot of things. For example, Stolen Strategy, you exile all your opponent's stuff, Swords of Plowshares, you kill something in the way, and then Belborka just goes smashing in. I still think Boros kind of sucks. It's not that great, but do you know what? It's moving in the right direction, and it is an interesting effect. I love that it's interesting. You know, get that card draw, thumbs up, good job, sure. You know, maybe do something silly like attack for 11. I like that. It's okay. All right. Blim Comedic Genius is 2 black-red for a legendary imp. It's a 4/3 flyer. When Blim Comedic Genius deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of target permanent you control. Then each player loses life and discards cards equal to the number of permanents they control but don't own. All right. So the stats on this actually start off pretty good. 4 mana, 4/3 flyer, thumbs up. But also kind of deals 5 and has them discard a card when it connects. Like, that is a pretty powerful flyer right there. That's before you even start combining this with giving them things that are bad for them. We got demonic lore out of Commander Legends. I mean, giving them this enchantment immediately where they just start losing tons of life for each card in their hand. Non-bow with making them discard, but that's okay. My favorite would have to be Demonic Pact. You know, just get that advantage and then blim it up and give it to them. Unfortunately, though, you're definitely playing with very dangerous effects if you're using Blim to donate demonic packs. But that's what imps do. Like the imps and demons and stuff, they're chaotic and they're fun, honestly. Captain Vargas Wrath. Blue-red for a 1/1 legendary arc pirate. When it attacks, pirates you control get +1/+1 until end of turn for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. Now, this can be a commander, so thumbs up to that. You cast this, and then suddenly it attacks as a 2/2 and pumps all your pirates. That's fine. But I think that this might be able to slot into a pirate deck that has partner commanders, and there's some good partners in red and blue. So that way, maybe if you're attacking with this, it's pumping up all your pirates +2/+2, +3/+3. Even a +3/+3 boost, that's when you're starting to get some real action going on, but just +1/+1 is pretty mediocre. So that's where you gotta draw the line of, you know, how attacky am I and how often am I gonna be casting my commander from my command zone. Kolfinor, the Last You, is 3 white, black, green for a 3/7 legendary treefolk shaman. It has vigilance and reach, and whenever Kolfinor or another creature you control dies, return up to 1 other target creature card with lesser toughness from your graveyard to your hand. All right, Kolfinor giving us some value even when it dies. Has me thinking of a scrap trawler effect, you know? Things die, you can get stuff back, and there are loops you can make with scrap trawler, so I'm pretty sure that there are loops you can make with Kolfinor, or just value, honestly. Again, when we're talking about possible loops, they're usually not attached to 6 CMC commanders. Like, when your combo starts after you drop a 6-drop, and then probably need more mana, like it's not a big combo. But what I could see is a cool value graveyard toughness matters deck. Like, you know, Doran the Siege Tower. You're like, I want a toughness matters deck. Cool, but Doran is actually a really aggressive toughness matters deck. Maybe you want one that's a little bit more dirtily, that has a lot of toughness. Maybe has some Doran-like effects in there. Like Doran can be a part of the deck, but really is just kind of like building a bunch of walls. So Kolfinor might be good, letting you buy back other creatures, maybe play around with the graveyard a little bit. Sounds fun. Gen Arcanum Weaver. 3 white, black for a 2/3 legendary human wizard. Red, white, black tap, sacrifice an enchantment, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. There's such a big difference between hand and battlefield. Like we were talking about Kolfinor, we were talking about Amarath, those went to hand. This goes to the battlefield. This was another commander that I was really excited about when I play tested this a while ago. Unfortunately, it proved to be a little bit too strong. When I was playing with it, it had generic mana to activate and wasn't 3. I wanted to play again and activate it in the same turn because people could see what was going on. They could see my graveyard and see Gen and be like, okay, we need to kill this right now or else I'm going to get destroyed by this enchantment. So I do think that Gen is significantly weaker, needing 6 mana to sort of go off with them. But there's some value there and there's some fun stuff. Let's just take a look at all of the 7 mana plus enchantments that you can cheat onto the battlefield with Gen. Captive Audience, Cruel Reality, Grave Betrayal, Overwhelming Splendor. Never played with Price of Knowledge, doesn't mean I don't want to. Vicious Shadows, man, just wins games. Touch of the Eternal, not usually. Never played with it, never seen it on a commander game, but sure. Hedonist Trove, way too much money to cast, but maybe in this game I can make it happen. Gen is fun. You can just play a value Enchantress deck too. I really like having access to Daxos, because Daxos was the black-white, enchantments matter deck. And then we know we've seen a lot of stuff in Bant, so we were just really missing red. And now we have it. All right, next up is Nostro, Voice of the Crags. 1 blue, red, white for a 3/3 Chimera. Tap, choose 1. X is the number of spells you've cast this turn. Scry X, deals X damage to target creature. You gain X life. Really underwhelming. How many spells do you have to cast before this doesn't even win the game? I really wish you could just dome a player, because then this could be an interesting, maybe Stormy type thing, but again, there's other better Stormy decks, so Nostro feels like a really underpowered commander, in my opinion. Gore Mundrak, Amphinologist, cool. 1 green, blue for a 3/2 legendary human scout. You and permanents you control have protection from salamanders. At the beginning of your end step, each player who controls the fewest creatures creates a 4/3 blue salamander warrior creature token. So you're passing around these salamanders unless you have the least number of creatures. And if you have Gore Mundrak that's giving this ability, then you're probably going to giving away salamanders an okay amount of the time. You always can't have 0, creatures. So you got Image Crafter. You can make anything a salamander, and then you have protection from your opponent's deck. Cool. Listen, I think that this is more like a fun political commander where you are giving away people's salamanders, almost like an Edric decks. And, Edric, you can have an Edric deck that you take where you take advantage of it, but you can also have an Edric deck where you kind of incentivize your opponents to attack each other. And so maybe this is kind of a cool Edric-y commander, but not as powerful, just giving out some salamanders. I can see that. I can also see giving away a bunch of salamanders and then taking them for yourself and swinging out at your opponents. It's pretty okay. I'm fine with it. What if this was an Oath of Druids deck? Like, you're giving away salamanders, and so hopefully Oath of Druids is triggering on you, but like, in order to do it, you need a creature on the battlefield anyways? No. All right, I'm really excited about Hamza, Guardian of Arashin. 4 green-white for a 5/5 legendary elephant warrior, loving elephants. And the spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Thumbs up. So this is a 5 mana 5/5 in many situations, and this is going to be able to impact the commander tax. Like, you can get creatures with +1/+1 counters on them. Like, that is a big strategy in Commander. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, this is really going to give you the ability to just put tons of creatures onto the battlefield. Like, I'm thinking about cards like Hangerback Walker, you know, 2 mana, like easily going to be able to cast this for huge because it's using colorless mana. It has +1/+1 counters. It creates 1/1s. You can then add +1/+1 counters to them. Adding +1/+1 counters. Sorry, I have to change the art because look at this. I mean, this is the Cat Beast token. I know I have to switch to it so you can see it. This is the epic Cat Beast token. And then this Dirtle Knot is the cat on there. No, we're going to go to this Felidar retreat where you have a majestic Felidar on a floaty rock. Okay. Landfall, put a +1/+1 counter on everything. Amazing. You know, or creates those beasts if you want to. Look, I know that there are a lot of hoops that you theoretically have to jump through to make this good, but I can see you putting just a ton of creatures onto the battlefield, and there are lots of ways to distribute +1/+1 counters just anywhere. So I'm very excited about this. I don't think it's like the most impressive +1/+1 strategy, but it's pretty good and it's going to be fun. I'm tempted to build a budget deck. If you want to see a budget Hamza Guardian of Arashvin deck, like let me know, because Felidar Retreat, pretty 125. Wait a second. This art is more expensive than the good art? Nope. Magic is dead. Moving on. Hans Eriksen. Look at Hans is back. Magic is back alive. Hans is here. 2 red-green for a 1/4 human scout. Whenever it attacks, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, put it on the battlefield tapped and attacking. And otherwise, put that card into your hand. But when you put that creature card on the battlefield this way, it fights Hans. Interesting. So here's the thing. You can build your deck so that when Hans attacks, you just draw a card. You know, we don't have to have creatures, and we don't have to have creatures that die or kill Hans. Like 3/2s or 2/2s, you know, can all be just fine. Although, you know, I wouldn't mind Hans dying if it cheated an Eldrazi into play. Like, you could do that. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of flavor to this, too. Hans is related to Safi, Eric's daughter. Nothing could ruin such a fine day, Safi. Oh, the lore says that things are being ruined right here. Amodi, Celebrant of Bounty. 3 green-blue for a 3/1 Naga Druid with Cascade. Spells with Cascade automatically have some added value to them. And then spells you cast with converted mana cost 6 or greater have Cascade. Woohoo! Fun. So not only does this have Cascade, it just gives your other big spells Cascade. Do you know what? I'll tell you what, this just seems like a fun commander. It seems like this could let you play big dirtly spells and cascade into other big spells. I'm a fan. I think this is solid. If I had my choice, I would build a deck around this, and I think I will. I think this is the perfect new commander for players. It's 25 cents, but what does it do? It just lets you play big dumb creatures, and with the more big dumb spells you cast, the more you cascade into other big interesting things. I'm a fan. I like it. All right, let's talk about Jared Carthalion, True Heir. It's a red, a green, and a white for a 3/3 legendary human warrior. It enters the battlefield. Target opponent becomes the monarch. Wait, target opponent becomes the monarch. Lame. And you can't become the monarch this turn. Oh, I hate that line so much. If you just gave someone the monarch and then you're like, yoop, mine again. Okay. If damage would be dealt to Jared Carthalion while you're the monarch, prevent that damage and put that many +1/+1 counters on it. But you're not the monarch. I love the monarch so much, but just giving it away so freely has me not enjoy it at all. I do like giving a specific opponent monarch because maybe there's a way to get around it, but I'm not a fan of Jared. Just can't give up the monarch that easily. Gotta get it and hold on to it. Jury Juri, Master of the Review, is a black-red 1/1 human shaman. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Juri, and when Juri dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. I don't know if this measures up because it doesn't really do what like Judith does. Judith pumps everything and then it deals 1 damage anywhere you want, and that's a pretty powerful effect. This just gets this bigger. It feels a little bit like a Mayhem Devil because it's about sacrificing permanents, so it hits those fetch lands and stuff like that, and incidental things that is not the same as a creature dying. But the fact that it deals damage like a Dreadhorde Butcher means that Juri, I don't know, has some ways around it where you can pump the power and do a bunch of damage, which is very cool. I like that. Like equipment, you know, equipped onto Juri could be really interesting. But for the most part, I'm not as impressed with Juri as I am with these other ones. Like if this had partner, I'd be pretty excited about it. But I think I'd go with other sort of aristocracy, Saki commanders over Juri. Let's talk about Kangi, Sky Warden. 3 white blue for a 3/3 legendary bird wizard. Of course, it's got flying vigilance. When it attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0. When it blocks, blocking creatures with flying get +2/+2. So this big anthem for it, it's an upgrade to the original Kangi, Airy Keeper, which was very cool. Don't get me wrong. Needed a ton of mana to kick it, like really crazy amounts. But it's only worked with birds, okay? And that was a big downside. But so Kangi can be your flying general, very cool. But we just got Inez, the Gale Force, which is an insane flying general with this pumping ability. Like, I think that Inez is way cooler and way more interesting in Commander. Kangi's gonna feel underpowered. But Kangi can go in that deck. Like, Kangi can go in these flyer decks for sure. And by the way, not scoffing at a 10-cent commander that can really push damage through in the air. Like, that's totally fine. Because this is a... Oh, it went down. Cool. I paid like $10 for this stupid jump start. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about this rabbit wizard. Look at this art. It's adorable. Quain Itinerant Meddler. White blue for a 1/3 legendary rabbit wizard. Each player may draw a card, then each player who drew a card this way gains 1 life. Aww. So we have an adorable card with drawing card synergies. Honestly, anything that has to do with, you know, card draw, like the Temple Bow. Honestly, anything that has to do with card draw, this is like a Temple Bell effect. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually force your opponents to draw the card. So if you had effects like Hole Breacher, another new card that is amazing, I'm super excited about, they could just say no. You know, they can just be like, nah, thanks. Each player may draw a card. So you're not forcing them to give you treasures or extra cards or making them take damage or whatever. Like, it feels like it's always going to be good for them because they're always making the choice to do it or not. Not as a fan, but you know, art wise, you know, thumbs up, glowy hand bunny. I just wish it forced them. I mean, is it that bad if it forces them? Like, you know, if we just got an upgrade to Kami, you know what I mean? Like, granted, I think, too many Kamis. There we go. Like Kami the Crescent Moon, like just at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player draws an additional card. It's like a cool upgrade to Kami that you could sort of weaponize a little bit. But Quain could never force them to draw, so just a little bit sad. It's still good. It's still good group hugs. It's still hugs, like, because bunnies are great for hugging. So are like cheeky naked Buddhas good for hugging too. Okay, Lathiel, the Bounteous Dawn. 2 green and a white for a 2/2 life-linking unicorn. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn, distribute up to that many +1/+1 counters among any number of other target creatures. I like that it's that many. So let's say you're crazy and you gain a ton of life. I've seen Tristani decks go insane, you know, gaining 30, 40 life a turn. Then this can distribute that many counters. It's not like an Archangel of Thune where it's just +1/+1 to each creature you control if you gain life. But I really dislike that this is among any number of other target creatures. I would be so much happier if I could just put some counters on this and like have it build up and then gain more life from lifelink and then attack with some more. So you really need to have the right conditions in order to get those big mana stacking up. Whereas normally Archangel of Thune will just do more. And I know that Archangel of Thune can't be your commander, but I mean, it just works a little bit better with going off with your life gain. Also, this happens at the beginning of each end step. They're doing this way more often. You're going to notice that because this would theoretically combo with Spike Feeder like Archangel of Thune does. Here, I'll put on Spike Feeder. Spike isn't going to work. There we go. It could theoretically combo with Spike Feeder, but instead, this happens the beginning of each end step. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is still very, very good where you know, remove a +1/+1 counter, gain 2 life, put 2 counters on this, then remove 2 counters, gain 4 life, put 4 counters on it, and this happens at the beginning of each end step. So don't get me wrong, it's very good. But the other one just wins the game, right? So, yeah. All right, let's talk about Lisa Shroud. Lisa? Shroud of Dusk. 2 white, black for a 5/5 legendary creature angel. It's got flying and lifelink, and if this is your commander, then you don't pay 2 mana for every time you cast it. You pay 2 life, which actually I like a lot more. Like, that's quite good. That makes this always 5, and then you're just leveraging some life to get it out there. Super good. Like, we've seen how much using life on a commander. Crick. No. What's the name of Yawgmoth's buddy? Son of Yawgmoth. There we go. We've seen how good Phyrexian mana can be in the command zone. Crick. Son of Yawgmoth has been able to leverage that, and it is quite a powerful card. And people are totally fine just like throwing tons of life into casting your commander. So I can see how this card could be very good in that way. I also like that we haven't finished reading the card yet. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. Now that includes you, but you're in a deck that will prioritize life gain. It's going to be so strong. And then you've got this crazy Kumbal effect that basically you're taxing your opponents every step. I think it's great. And I like this black-white taxation life gain strategy. I'm very excited and impressed for this. It feels like this is a better way to take aristocrats, kind of. I know that we love building the engine of aristocrats a little bit more, but honestly, if we can just tax our opponents and then gain lots of value as we're playing, it's going to make a really strong deck. And I think that I can build something really good around that. Let's talk about the venerealorborg tyrant. 3 white, blue, black for a 3/6 zombie wizard. Hexproof from artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. When it enters the battlefield, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token for each creature that died this turn. When it dies, you may pay 1. When you do, destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. So, this is Nevinyrral's disc. This is literally his disc. Here, I'll look up Nevinyrral's Nevinyrral? Look at that, there we go, Nevinyrral's disc. Now, it's Nevinyrral's disc on a dude. Now, where have we seen Nevinyrral's disc do really well? Well, we've traditionally seen it be strong in Planeswalker strategies because it hits artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, and specifically avoids Planeswalkers because they didn't exist in Alpha. Alpha? Alpha. Nice. So this could be a Planeswalker deck. Now, if it's all about Planeswalkers, then we're not taking advantage of these 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So maybe we're kind of a sacrificey deck where we sacrifice our board and we play Nevinyrral and then suddenly we rebuild our team with even more 2/2s. I love the way this plays. I think that it's really exciting. It can be this sort of second sunrise, rebuild your team effect, or it can be this board wipe effect that protects your planeswalkers or something else. Again, I think that this is leaning towards the value general rather than the combo general. Like it does combo-y things by creating a bunch of 2/2s, but 6 mana means it's not really a combo general. I think that they've done a great job at pricing the things that could be combo-y up pretty high. Like Nevinyrral is priced up high enough that it's not really combo-y. The Kolfinor that gives you value priced up here at 6 as well. We have Amarath priced up at 6 as well. So I think that they're identifying some of the things that could make games not as fun and putting them up at 6. They're also learning stuff like having triggers happen at the end of your turn. So for example, this one is at the beginning of your end step. Right here, we're going to learn about Thales a little bit later. It's happened at the beginning of each end step. So we're getting some interesting ways that they're properly valuing these commanders, so we're not immediately building them to their most intense. Okay, Nimrus, Una's Trickster. 3 blue-black for a 1/6 legendary fairy knight, flash flying. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of those cards in your hand, and the other into your graveyard. That is definitely a card's worth of value. It's not just draw a card. Like we think of a Wavebreak Hippocamp being a good card. You know, it's fine. It's not like breaking the bank or anything like that, but it's a card that we would play in a commander game for sure. And now we have it in our command zone at flash, and it's more than drawing a card. It's a little bit of selection too. I think that we needed a commander for this flash archetype. We have a lot of new cards of flash, like 2 of the best cards in this set are flashy cards. So I think that this is going to be really solid. So I'm excited about this, and 5 mana is a lot, you know, but again, this is kind of the slowing down of commander. Like they're not going to make this at 2 mana, even though it would be amazing. You know, you have to have this at 5 and then untap with it to start getting a lot of your value. Okay, Obeka, Brute Chronologist. 1 blue, black, red for a 3/4 legendary ogre wizard. Well, you can tap this. The player whose turn it is may end the turn. That is some amazing text right there. I love it. So first off, you can just hand out end the turns whenever you want on your opponent's turn. I think that's really cool to be like, hey, do you want to just end the turn? And you're sure, just end the turn. Sure, just end it. I don't want this turn anymore. So it can be that. But where you get a lot of value is ending your own turn. We've seen this with Sundial of the Infinite doing a lot of stuff, and being able to double up on Sundials of the Infinite in your deck and have a reliable one in your command zone means it unlocks a lot of different things. Anything that puts a token into play at the end of the turn or puts a creature on the battlefield until end of turn says you lose the game at the end of turn. You just end it, and then all of these triggers aren't happening. I can think of a ton of fun decks to build around Obeka. The problem is that a lot of these cards that, you know, happen at the end of turn aren't very good unless you have Obeka going or this Sundial of the Infinite going, because it's not like you're excited to start unearthing things. I am excited to encore things. That's one reason why it's in this set, you know. It can slot in perfectly with Aramui, you know. If you like this card and want to add a little bit more spice to it, you know, make the encore style deck, like cheat things into play, make them be huge, end the turn, keep everything around. It just seems fun. And if you don't go too deep into lose the game at the end of the turn effects, then you'll probably be fine. Reyev, Master Smith, white and a Reyev, Master Smith, red and a white for a 2/2 Dwarf Artificer. If you like dwarf decks, you got yourself a dwarf. Whatever creature you control that's enchanted or equipped attacks, that creature gains double strike until end of turn. So I'm not a big fan of this in general, because usually if you're enchanting creatures or equipping them, you are improving their ability to attack. So you don't need to have a card that also improves their ability to attack. It's a little bit redundant, and it's not adding to your theme of having more artifacts or more enchantments in your deck. Could this be a really big powerhouse that you drop it and suddenly your creatures are huge and double strike through? Yeah, totally. But in many cases, that's not the weakness of red-white. The weakness is longevity and protection, and this doesn't give either one of those. The least reverent medium white. No. 3 white-black for a 3/4 legendary human cleric. It looks like it's flying, but it's not flying. At the beginning of each end step, create X 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, where X is the number of tokens you created this turn. It's almost like in a bad anointed procession in your command zone. An anointed procession is pretty good. I would take that in my command zone. But basically you play it, and then when you secure the waste, you can double up and get that into spirits. Unfortunately, if you make a bunch of angels, they're still getting spirits. So if you're making 1/1 soldiers or anything like that, then you're getting an upgrade on your tokens. If you're making rhinos or zombies, let's say zombies, you're in black, then you're getting a downgrade on your tokens. One thing I want to point out, again, I said this earlier, it's happening at the beginning of each end step. I have a feeling that if this was a doubling ability like Anointed Procession, you were constantly getting the spirits, then it would be a little bit broke. It'd be too good. It'd be as good as Anointed Procession, which is quite good. So I'm a little bit sad it's at the end step, but that's okay. You know, I can see this going into a lot of little token decks, making a lot of little spirits, friends. Okay, Tuya, Bear Claw. 1 red, green for a 2/2 legendary human warrior. When it attacks, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power non-creatures you control. It's missing trample, but it has an adorable bear, so it's a push. Urlock of Scorched Thrash. The art on this is amazing. 1 black, red, green for a 4/4 legendary Viashino Shaman. It's got vigilance, and a player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. It gives you mana burn. Oh, I love it. 1 in a tap, each player adds Jund, that's black, red, green, to their mana pool. So hopefully you add this to their mana pool and then people start taking a bunch of damage. One thing that's interesting is that if you have the ability to untap and add a bunch of mana with Urlock, then you can just kill everyone. So in this set, we have Staff of Domination. So if you have like doubling effects of mana, then you could, you know, Staff of Domination as you keep, where's Staff of Domination go? There you go. You can untap target creature and then just kind of keep going and then burn people out. You need a lot of mana for that. So, but there are definitely ways to turn this into going infinite and then burning everyone out in your command zone. So that's something to pay attention to. I just like slowly taxing people's mana, like giving them extra mana. Think of Belby 2. Making it so that they tap all of their lands, punishing them for tapping their lands or playing lands, and then burning them out. I like this level of taxation. It's pretty fun and pretty interesting. And if you have a commander that literally does like 3 damage to each player each turn, like 9 damage, in these colors, that's solid. And it ramps you? Yeah, totally. All right, last card is Zara, Renegade Recruiter, 3 blue, red for a 4/3 flying human pirate. Yep, she flies. Whenever this Zara attacks, look at the defending player's hand. You may put a creature card from it onto the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking. That player planeswalker they control, return that creature to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. This could definitely do with some ending the turn. What if you just cancel that? Don't return it to their owner's hand. You just get to keep that card. One thing that's great is that if you can steal a relevant creature, you can just keep attacking them with it, or you can have sacrifice outlets. I like this because it feels fair. If your opponents are playing big dumb magic, then you're going to big dumb smash them. If they're playing like fair value magic, then that's fine too. I mean, what if you're just getting an Eternal Witness or a Wood Elves or something like that? That's straight up value. There is a chance that you whiff and that feels bad, but it's a evasive pirate, man, and it's stealing stuff from your opponents and smashing them with it. It's definitely a great recruiter. All right, everyone, let's take a look at my favorite card from all of these legendary creatures. Let's talk about the card whose art I like most and special shout out. I think I'm really torn because there's a lot of really, really interesting cards here. I think the card that I like the most is going to be this Arcanum Weaver, because It's incredibly fun to play with Mardu enchantments. Enchantments is just a fun deck, and so I'm really excited for that. I think the most powerful card is going to be Aramui, just because Encore is a really powerful effect. Now, Aramui can be interrupted pretty easily, and I have a feeling that people are going to just kill this card over and over again. But man, if you get it going and you're making just pulling back Grave Titans and Sepulchral Primordials and attacking with them and getting all of that sweet, sweet enter the battlefield value, Arumi's going to be amazing. And then I got to give a shout out to the best art. And the best art goes to, I wanted to hug this bunny and own it. No, yeah, okay, so shout out to owning the bunny and giving it some love. The best art is definitely going to go to this little guy, this Viashino Shaman. Look at him. Look at him being so adorable and cute. Is there any other good art over here? Unicorn shout out. Actually, this Naga Druid's pretty good looking too. I like that. And by the way, if you're looking for good art, man, all of these have these amazing etched foils, and the etched foils look really, really good. And there's like 3 of them in a pack, so I have a feeling that they're going to be pretty inexpensive. So I'm really excited. I'm actually really excited about all of these. Like, this is a good commander and it's 31 cents. Like, this is probably a little bit, no, this is a good commander and it's 36 cents. Like, these are all like really good commander cards and should be built, and they're very inexpensive. So I'm loving what it does to opening up your choices for commanders for interesting strategies and making them really affordable. All right, everyone. My name is DJ, and you're watching the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank Cool Stuff Inc. They sponsor the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. Doing some Christmas shopping? Jumbo 5 saves you 5% off your order. I also want to thank my patrons. They're the best. I'm going to be thanking you with my annual Christmas card coming up soon. So I love all you patrons. Keep an eye out for the mailbox. And thank you for watching. Have a good one.